Niccolò Machiavelli, that sharp-eyed observer of power from Renaissance Italy, didn't just write about winning wars or crushing enemies outright. He understood a deeper, often more efficient truth. The most elegant victory is one where your opponent chooses to surrender, believing it to be their best or only viable option. This is the core of shaping their surrender. It's not about kindness, it's about strategic control, making resistance seem futile, dangerous, or simply less appealing than yielding. Forget noble knights in shining armor. Think more like a chess master, forcing your opponent into a corner where giving up feels like the only logical move. It's power exercised through perception and calculated pressure, making defeat feel like a conclusion they reach themselves, not one forced upon them. The victor avoids the messy, expensive, and reputation-damaging chaos of total war or destruction, emerging stronger and seemingly more reasonable. Imagine a general who wins without losing soldiers, or a CEO who acquires a rival without a public battle. That's the quiet power of this approach. The absolute foundation is controlling the options available to your adversary. Machiavelli knew people fight hardest when they see a path to victory, survival, or a decent outcome. Your job is to systematically remove those paths, brick by brick, until only one doorway remains: surrender. Make it look like the least bad option, perhaps even disguising it as a prudent or slightly advantageous one. Imagine a large corporation, megacorp, wanting to buy out a smaller, innovative competitor, startup genius. Crushing them in a brutal price war is expensive, draws regulatory scrutiny, and destroys value. Instead, Megacorp quietly buys up or signs exclusive deals with all the key suppliers Startup Genius relies on for its unique components. Simultaneously, Megacorp engineers leaks to tech media about its own massive secret R&D project that will make Startup Genius's core product obsolete within a year. They might even float a seemingly generous buyout offer through back channels. Now the founders of Startup Genius look at their situation. No way to build their product, a looming technological giant about to crush their market, and an immediate cash payout on the table. Fighting seems impossible. Bankruptcy is almost certain. Surrender, selling the company, suddenly looks not just necessary, but almost smart, a way to salvage something. Megacorp shaped their perception of reality until surrender was the only rational choice. They didn't win a battle. They made the battle unthinkable. This principle works just as effectively in personal conflicts. Consider a landlord wanting a difficult, long-term tenant to leave without a costly eviction battle. Instead of direct confrontation, they might start strictly enforcing minor lease clauses ignored for years, bringing in inspectors for trivial complaints, and letting the building's maintenance visibly slide, while casually mentioning a friend looking for a place just like theirs. The tenant, facing constant hassle and deteriorating conditions, starts believing moving is their idea for a better life. The landlord shaped the surrender of the lease. Perception is everything in this game. Machiavelli stressed the vital importance of appearances, appearing overwhelmingly strong, utterly resolute, and potentially ruthless. You don't necessarily need to be invincible at the start. You need your adversary to believe you are, and that any resistance is utterly futile and will only make things worse. Think of a high-stakes political campaign. Candidate Steele doesn't just talk about policies. They constantly release internal polls, carefully selected or even slightly inflated, showing them with a commanding, insurmountable lead. They secure a flood of massive, highly publicized endorsements from popular figures and key power brokers. They saturate the airwaves and social media with ads relentlessly portraying candidate Hope as weak, inexperienced, out of touch, and fundamentally incapable of winning. The goal isn't just to persuade undecided voters. It's to create an aura of inevitability around steel and utter hopelessness around hope. This perception becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hope supporters feel demoralized and stay home. Donors see polls showing a landslide and decide contributing is throwing money away. Volunteers lose their fire, figuring the fight is lost. Local party officials start distancing themselves. The overwhelming perception of steel's unstoppable momentum actively saps Hope's campaign resources, morale, and will to fight long before Election Day. Surrender in this case might mean Hope's campaign collapsing, key staff defecting, or Hope making desperate self-destructive gaffes. Their belief in their own inevitable defeat, carefully cultivated by steel, shapes their surrender long before the votes are cast. This isn't limited to politics. Think of two kids arguing over a toy. One child, knowing they might lose a tug of war, loudly declares, "Fine! Keep it. It's probably broken anyway, and Mom said it gives you germs." Suddenly, the winning child perceives the toy as less valuable or even undesirable. The first child shapes surrender by manipulating the value of victory. The winner gets a hollow prize, while the loser avoids a fight and controls the narrative. Timing and the relentless application of pressure are crucial weapons. Machiavelli advised striking when the iron is hot. Shaping surrender means applying pressure strategically and intensely, but also knowing the precise moment to offer the escape hatch, making surrender look like relief. Consider a tough union negotiating a new contract with management at a major shipping company. The union leaders don't just call a random strike. They meticulously plan it for the absolute peak season, the week before the holiday rush when warehouses are full and delivery deadlines are critical. They don't just walk out. They demonstrate ironclad member solidarity through massive daily picket lines at every distribution hub, covered nonstop by news crews. They strategically leak meticulously documented evidence of management's safety shortcuts or unfair labor practices to major newspapers, turning public sympathy sharply against the company. Management is suddenly facing crippling financial losses from halted shipments, furious retail clients canceling contracts, a plummeting stock price, and a public relations nightmare painting them as greedy villains. Just as the financial pain and public fury reach their peak, the union presents a specific, final offer. It's tough, but it offers management a clear way out of the escalating disaster. Management, calculating the spiraling daily losses against the long-term damage to their brand and customer relationships, sees accepting this painful deal as the only rational choice for the company's survival. The union applied maximum pressure at the point of maximum vulnerability, making surrender, signing the deal, the clear path to stopping the bleeding. The pressure created the surrender. This principle applies even in everyday negotiations, like buying a car. A savvy buyer doesn't show desperation early. They might wait until the last day of the month when salespeople need to hit quotas, point out minor flaws in the vehicle, mention a competitor's better offer, and then, just as they seem ready to walk away, make a firm, low offer. The dealer, pressured by time and the fear of losing the sale entirely, is more likely to surrender to the buyer's price. Machiavelli famously discussed the balance between being loved and feared. In shaping surrender, fear is almost always the more reliable and efficient tool, not blind, panicked terror, but a cold, rational fear of the devastating consequences of continued resistance. A skilled military commander besieging a fortified city doesn't just wait passively for starvation to do its work. They might launch a terrifyingly precise and overwhelming artillery barrage or airstrike, utterly destroying a key defensive tower or command center, broadcasting their technological superiority and ruthlessness. They completely cut off all supply lines, ensuring no food or medicine gets in. Then they drop leaflets or send envoys with a stark message: Surrender now under these terms, which include sparing lives and property, or when we breach the walls, as we inevitably will, no quarter will be given. Expect massacre and total ruin. The defenders witness the horrifying destruction firsthand. They feel their food dwindle and sickness spread. They hear the promise of annihilation if they hold out. The rational fear of the far worse alternative, utter destruction, makes surrender, with its uncertain but potentially survivable outcome, prisoner of war camps, occupation, suddenly seem acceptable, even desirable. The commanders shaped their choice through a terrifying demonstration of power and the explicit threat of greater suffering. Fear of the alternative made surrender the lesser evil. This dynamic plays out in business constantly. A dominant company might threaten a smaller competitor with patent litigation they know would be ruinously expensive to fight, even if the smaller company has a decent case. The fear of bankruptcy, not the certainty of losing the lawsuit, forces the surrender, a settlement or withdrawal from the market. However, Machiavelli also understood the power of the carrot alongside the stick. Pure intimidation can sometimes provoke desperate, suicidal resistance, the nothing left to lose mentality. Effective surrender shaping often involves offering a way out that isn't utter humiliation or annihilation. It's about making surrender seem like a reasonable, even slightly beneficial decision compared to the horrific alternative you've made vividly real. A giant tech company, Titan Tech, faces a potentially damaging lawsuit from a small but scrappy innovator, David Soft, over patent infringement. Titan Tech's lawyers don't just bluster. They quietly spend months building an absolutely ironclad case, gathering prior art evidence, lining up expert witnesses. Simultaneously, they make it known through legal channels that they have virtually unlimited funds and are prepared to drag the case out for a decade through endless appeals. They then invite David Soft's CEO for a frank discussion. They lay it out. Look, we can litigate this forever. You'll burn through your entire venture capital, bankrupt your company within 18 months on legal fees alone. Even if, by some miracle, you eventually win years from now, your company will be a hollow shell, your technology outdated. Or, you license the patent to us now. We pay you a significant upfront payment, enough to secure your future, plus ongoing royalties. You get immediate cash, avoid financial ruin and years of stress, and we avoid a costly distraction. The explicit threat of a decade-long legal war, the stick, creates the rational fear of total destruction. The licensing offer, the carrot, provides a face-saving, even profitable, exit. David Soft, faced with the bleak, certain prospect of bankruptcy versus the tangible, immediate benefit of guaranteed money and survival, is overwhelmingly likely to choose surrender, taking the deal. Titan Tech made the path of resistance look so catastrophically bleak that the surrender option became genuinely attractive. They framed defeat as a smart business decision. This carrot isn't always money. In personal life, ending a toxic relationship might involve calmly outlining the emotional and social costs of continuing. The stick, isolation, unhappiness, while highlighting the potential freedom and peace found in parting ways. The carrot. The surrender, ending things, feels like self-preservation, not defeat. This Machiavellian art extends far beyond the obvious. Think of a dominant sports team trading away a popular but aging star player. The management doesn't just cut him. They might leak stories about his declining stats to the press, subtly reduce his playing time in key moments, hint broadly to other teams about his availability, and simultaneously start heavily promoting a promising, cheaper rookie. The player feels undervalued, sees the writing on the wall, and eventually requests a trade to a team where he feels wanted. effectively surrendering his place. Management shaped his exit by making staying look like a demotion and a dead end. Or consider international diplomacy. A powerful nation wanting a smaller neighbor to abandon a controversial policy doesn't immediately threaten invasion. It might impose gradual, targeted economic sanctions on key industries, fund opposition groups within the country, conduct highly visible military exercises near the border, and publicly offer generous aid packages if the policy is dropped. The cost of resistance, economic pain, internal instability, fear of conflict, is steadily increased, while a specific off-ramp policy change for aid is offered. The goal is to make the smaller nation's leaders conclude that changing course is the only way to avoid disaster, making their policy reversal feel like a voluntary choice for national survival. Even in nature, predators often shape surrender. A lioness doesn't always charge headlong at a gazelle. She might use the terrain to cut off escape routes, appearing suddenly from different angles, creating panic and confusion until the prey perceives flight as impossible and simply freezes, surrendering to its fate. The predator conserves energy by making the prey believe resistance is futile. The essence is cold, calculated strategy. It demands a deep understanding of your opponent's motivations, fears, vulnerabilities, and potential alternatives. It requires absolute control over the narrative and the environment, manipulating information and circumstances to make resistance appear increasingly futile, dangerous, and unrewarding. It involves a masterful calibration of pressure, demonstrating overwhelming power or resolve, tightening the screws relentlessly and at the optimal moment, exploiting rational fear, while sometimes offering a dignified or beneficial escape route at the point of maximum leverage. It's about forcing the other side to look at the board, see no viable moves left, no hope of relief, and decide independently to tip their king. The victory is achieved not necessarily through direct confrontation, but within the mind of the adversary, convinced that surrender is not abject defeat, but their only sensible self-preserving choice. Its power exercised with ruthless intelligence, patience, and psychological insight, making the desired outcome feel like the inevitable conclusion your opponent arrives at freely. The winner expends fewer resources, minimizes backlash, and often appears magnanimous or reasonable, all while having orchestrated the entire scenario leading to the surrender. That is the cold, enduring genius of the Machiavellian approach to shaping surrender. It transforms conflict from a destructive clash into a calculated maneuver where the loser feels they chose the only rational path and the winner achieves their goal with clean hands and minimal cost. It is the art of making defeat feel like a decision, not a disaster. Seek wisdom